All right, so you've probably heard about this one, Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
But we're going to take you beyond those headlines
Absolutely.
and really uncover what this fight means for the future of boxing.
For sure.
We're talking about a matchup that had everyone buzzing for months.
Oh, yeah.
Leading up to November 15th, 2024.
Huge.
Picture this AT&T Stadium.
Packed house.
Packed, a YouTuber stepping into the ring with a boxing legend.
It's crazy.
Huge age gap. Streamed live on Netflix. I mean, you couldn't make this stuff up.
You couldn't. It really was a carefully orchestrated spectacle from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And the pre-fight hype was almost as big as the fight itself.
It definitely felt that way. And remember, it was initially supposed to happen in July.
Right.
But got pushed back because Mike Tyson had an ulcer flare-up. So you can imagine the tension building all those extra months.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone wondering, will it live up to the hype? Did it deliver on the spectacle? And was it even a legitimate fight?
Right.
What did each fighter bring to the table?
To understand that, you have to look beyond the surface.
Okay.
You had Jake Paul at 27 years old, representing this new wave of influencer boxers.
Interesting.
His whole career has been built on social media, attracting a younger audience, maybe less familiar with boxing.
Makes sense.
On the other side, you have Mike Tyson at 58, the old guard.
Right.
A massive name with a legendary past.
Yeah, some critics questioned if this was even a legitimate fight, Tyson being so far past his prime.
Right, but you can't deny that Jake Paul has been steadily improving with each fight.
That's true.
And while Tyson is obviously not the fighter he once was, he's still Mike Tyson.
He's Mike Tyson.
There's a reason his name still carries so much weight.
For sure.
Plus, to address the idea that it wasn't a real boxing event,
Okay.
the undercard featured some serious talent.
Okay.
The Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano fight, for example, was for the undisputed junior welterweight championship.
So for those newer to boxing, the undercard means the fights that happen before the main event. In this case, it showed this wasn't just a spectacle, but a full card of competitive boxing.
Right.
Okay, so fight night arrives. What was the story the sources tell us about what happened inside the ring?
It really became a battle of strategy versus stamina.
Interesting.
Jake Paul's game plan was clear to use his youth and stamina to outlast Tyson, who, despite his power, would likely tire as the fight progressed.
Uh-huh.
And that's exactly what he did.
That's fascinating because one article pointed out that Paul threw 278 punches throughout the fight.
Wow.
Compared to just 97 from Tyson.
That's a big difference.
I mean, that's a massive difference.
It is, and those stats tell a story.
Yeah.
They reveal the strategic choices each fighter made.
Okay.
Paul went for volume, trying to rack up points with consistent hits.
Right.
Tyson, on the other hand, was more selective, looking for that one knockout punch.
Makes sense.
But as the fight went on, Tyson visibly faded. And those power punches just weren't connecting as frequently.
So despite the age difference, it wasn't just a case of the young gun overwhelming the veteran with youthful energy.
Right.
There was a clear strategy at play.
Exactly. And while some sources called the fight lackluster, I think that misses the nuance of what we saw.
Okay.
Given the age gap and their fighting styles, this type of tactical fight was to be expected.
Okay, so now for the big question. Everyone's waiting for who won.
Well, the judges' scorecards were pretty decisive.
All right, give us the dramatic pause, and the winner is?
Jake Paul won by unanimous decision.
Wow, unanimous. I have to admit, I didn't expect it to be so one-sided.
Yeah.
What led to such a decisive victory for Paul? Was it just stamina, or were there other factors at play?
The scores were 80-72, 79-73, and 79-73, all heavily in Paul's favor.
Wow.
This wasn't a fluke. He truly outboxed Mike Tyson.
Okay.
And the reason for that, the sources suggest, goes beyond just stamina.
Okay.
One boxing analyst pointed out that Paul's footwork was surprisingly good, allowing him to control the distance and avoid Tyson's power shots.
So it sounds like Paul really did his homework and came in with a solid game plan.
He did, and you have to give him credit for that. He absolutely did, and I think that's where some of the mixed reactions came from.
Yeah.
Some people saw it as proof that Jake Paul is evolving as a boxer.
Right.
Others, maybe those more attached to Tyson's legacy.
Yeah.
Focused on his decline, perhaps unable to accept that the aging legend could be outmatched by a younger, less experienced fighter.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can imagine it being tough for some fans to watch their hero lose.
For sure.
Especially to someone like Jake Paul, who came from outside the traditional boxing world.
Exactly. And let's not forget the sheer spectacle of it all.
Oh, yeah.
The influencer hype, the Netflix streaming, the massive audience.
Yeah.
It all added to the complex mix of reactions.
Speaking of reactions, one thing that jumped out at me from the sources was the talk about this fight being a potential turning point for boxing.
Yeah.
Some argue it was a farce that cheapens the sport,
Right.
while others see it as a sign of progress, bringing in a new generation of fans. What's your take on that?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It feels like it.
And I think it's a question you need to consider as well.
Okay.
Does this fight, with all its hype and non-traditional elements, enhance boxing's appeal or detract from it? Does it open doors for new talent and expand the audience, or does it compromise the sport's integrity?
It's interesting because on one hand, you have this massive viewership on Netflix,
Right.
a platform known for its accessibility and global reach.
For sure.
60 million households tuned in. That's huge.
That's massive.
And it's not just the numbers, it's how those viewers experience the fight.
Right.
Streaming offers a level of convenience that traditional pay-per-view just can't match.
You got that right.
People could watch on their phones, laptops, smart TVs, wherever they wanted.
Exactly. That's a key point.
Yeah.
It changes the whole game in terms of who's watching and how they're engaging with the sport.
Yeah.
And for a sport that's been struggling to maintain its relevance in a changing media landscape, that kind of exposure is invaluable.
But on the flip side, does this type of event, with all the influencer hype and spectacle, overshadow the actual sport?
Right.
Does it alienate the hardcore boxing fans who value technique, strategy, and the history of boxing?
Sure.
Are we sacrificing substance for entertainment?
It's a valid concern, and it's a tension that boxing has been grappling with for a while now.
I see.
This fight just brought it into sharper focus.
Yeah.
You have this clash between traditionalists and those who embrace this new era of entertainment-driven boxing.
It's like that debate in music between selling out and reaching a wider audience.
It is.
Is there a way to do both? Can boxing evolve without losing its soul?
That's what's fascinating here. This fight wasn't just about Paul versus Tyson. It was about boxing's identity in the 21st century.
Okay.
Can it balance the raw athleticism and technical skill with the entertainment value that attracts a broader audience?
It's a tightrope walk for sure, but maybe fights like this, as controversial as they are, force us to have those tough conversations and figure out where we as fans stand.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance, honoring the past while embracing the future.
Right.
And maybe, just maybe, fights like this can help us do both.
Yeah. It's a tricky situation for sure. And thinking about it, it's not just boxing that's changing.
Right.
The way we consume sports in general is evolving rapidly.
Absolutely.
Streaming is becoming the dominant force.
For sure.
And that has huge implications for all sports, not just boxing.
Absolutely. It's a complete paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Traditional broadcasters are scrambling to keep up, and platforms like Netflix are seeing the potential to disrupt the entire sports industry.
You mentioned Netflix, and their success with this fight was undeniable.
Yeah.
65 million concurrent streams at its peak.
Wow.
That's a game changer.
It is.
It shows the power and reach of these streaming platforms.
Absolutely.
Remember how we used to be tied to cable packages and specific channels to watch our favorite sports?
Yeah, those days are fading fast.
Yeah.
With streaming, we have more choice and control than ever before.
Yeah.
We can watch what we want when we want and on whatever device we choose.
It's empowering for viewers.
It is.
But I imagine it creates new challenges for leagues and organizations.
Right.
Trying to reach their audiences in this fragmented landscape, how do they adapt to this new reality?
It's a delicate balancing act.
Yeah.
They need to maintain their existing fan base
Right.
while also appealing to new viewers who might be discovering the sport through streaming.
Right.
And let's be honest, it's not just about convenience for viewers.
Okay.
For streaming platforms, it's about the money. They see live sports as a way to attract and retain subscribers.
That makes sense. Live sports are still one of the few things that can reliably draw a massive audience at the same time.
For sure.
And in the streaming world where competition for subscribers is fierce,
Yeah.
that kind of event is pure gold.
You hit the nail on the head.
Right.
It's all about capturing eyeballs and keeping people glued to their screens.
Right.
And sports, with their unpredictable drama and communal viewing experience,
Yeah.
are a perfect fit for the streaming model.
So where do we go from here? What does the future hold for sports broadcasting as streaming continues to rise?
I think we're going to see even more blurring of the lines between traditional sports and entertainment.
Okay.
We'll see more unconventional matchups like Paul versus Tyson, more celebrity involvement, and more emphasis on creating a spectacle that goes beyond the sport itself.
It's like they're taking cues from the world of professional wrestling, where the storylines and personalities are as important as the athletic competition.
Precisely. And it's working. Look at the viewership numbers for these hybrid events.
Yeah.
They're pulling in huge audiences.
Right.
And that's what ultimately drives the industry.
So the future of sports might be less about purists and traditionalists and more about embracing the entertainment aspect.
Yeah.
Catering to a broader, more diverse audience.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
And I believe we'll also see more streaming platforms entering the game,
Okay.
bidding for the rights to broadcast major sporting events. The battle for live sports content will only intensify.
Which in a way is good news for us as viewers, right?
Right.
More competition usually means more options, better quality, and maybe even lower prices.
You got it. It's a win-win situation for fans. We get to enjoy our favorite sports in new and innovative ways,
Right.
while the industry evolved to meet the demands of a changing world.
Well, you've given us a lot to think about. From the rise of influencer boxers to the streaming revolution.
For sure.
This deep dive into the Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fight has been incredibly insightful.
It's amazing how a single event can reflect such larger trends and forces at play in our society.
Yeah.
And boxing, with its long and storied history, provides the perfect backdrop for these conversations.
So for you listening, we want to leave you with this.
Okay.
What does the Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fight mean to you? Does it change how you view boxing? Does it make you more or less interested in the sport?
Take some time to ponder those questions.
Yeah.
Consider the future of boxing, the impact of streaming, and the evolving relationship between sports and entertainment. These are conversations worth having.
Absolutely.
And your perspective matters.
We've equipped you with insights from various sources and expert analysis.
Right.
Now it's your turn to form your own conclusions. As always, we encourage you to continue exploring these ideas.
For sure.
And engaging in these important discussions.
Remember, the world of sports is constantly evolving, and it's up to us as fans and consumers to shape its future.
That's a good point.
So keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time.
Today is your lucky day. Today is the day that our $3 website works for you, paying you directly to your PayPal daily. Imagine $3 ongoing continuous payments to your PayPal account. Imagine falling asleep and waking up to $300 in your PayPal account. How would this make you feel? How could this help you? What bills could you pay? What kind of fun could you have? What does that retirement look like now? All for a one-time payment of $3. This website is DFY done for you, fully built and completely hosted, and never stops collecting payments for you. You have spent $3 on coffee on a regular, but that coffee won't help you create multiple streams of income. Click the link below.